Caleb, Chang, Sydney, and Joel, Eastern Asia after World War II. After the war, Japan and China both began to industrialize their own resources to increase their economy. They started to build more factories to increase output of resources and got a lot of money from trading. Also, the United States helped them industrialize their economies a lot. Japan's economy was at first controlled by American forces after the war. However, they started a constitutional monarchy, and afterwards, American forces withdrew from the country. Despite their lack of resources, the Japanese economy thrived because of hard workers who were devoted to their companies. In addition, they also made several technological advances which helped stimulate economic development. The division in China between nationalists and communists eventually caused a major civil war. Mao Zedong, the leader of the communist side, helped lead his group to victory. After this, he created the People's Republic of China. At first, the communist rule helped China. They organized communes, or collective farms, that had families work together to produce more product. Mao even launched a 5-year plan that was for industrial development, which succeeded. However, later when he tried the Great Leap Forward, another industrial plan, it failed miserably and millions of people starved because of the food shortage. During the 1980s, the political situation grew tense. More and more people began to question the Communist Party's absolute control. In the spring of 1989, Chinese students began demanding political reform. More than 1 million students and workers gathered in Beijing to demand democracy, freedom of the press, and an end to dictatorship. However, the government would not allow this to happen for long. In June of 1989, the government suddenly responded by sending tanks into Tiananmen Square in the center of Beijing, where the student protesters had gathered. Troops killed more than 2,000 demonstrators and arrested thousands more. Around the world, nation after nation, communist as well as democratic, condemned the Chinese leadership for its brutal action. This caused an uncertain future for China. After the war, Great Britain realized they would have to give up its control over India. However, there was a power struggle between the Hindus and the Muslims. A majority of the population was Hindu, but the Muslim minority refused to live in a Hindu-dominated state. As a solution, Britain turned to partition, the division of a huge subcontinent into 2 nations. In 1947, the new Muslim nation of Pakistan was created. As a new nation, India faced major political and economic questions. India itself was a democracy, the largest in the world. However, the leaders created a policy called non-alignment, or remaining neutral between opposing systems. Also, because West Pakistan and East Pakistan had almost nothing in common besides religion, the people fought constantly, and eventually a civil war broke out in 1971. East Pakistan won the war with the support of India and became its own country of Bangladesh. After the war, many countries in Southeast Asia wanted independence, and after a 4-year revolution, the former Dutch East Indies became the new nation of Indonesia. Britain gave independence to Burma and Malaysia, and in 1946, the United States granted independence to the Philippines. Of the former European powers, France made the strongest effort to keep its colonies. Although French officials and soldiers returned to Indochina after the war, nationalist leaders were determined to win independence. They started a war which eventually caused the United States to become involved because they were afraid of the communist rule of Ho Chi Minh. Thus, the U.S. asked that Vietnam be split to north, where Ho Chi Minh's group could govern, and south, where the U.S. could support. However, independence did not bring peace to Vietnam, and they constantly fought in guerrilla warfare. Eventually, the American people had doubts about their own troops being in another country's issues. So after a lot of public pressure and rising casualty figures, the U.S. pulled out of Vietnam. Eventually, the North won the war and started total communist rule.